Jack Kemp bounced around with several teams his first 6 years in pro ball. Despite his lack of initial success, he toughed it out and eventually found a home in Buffalo, where he earned respect for himself and 2 titles for the Buffalo Bills.
Like other American success stories, the career of Jack Kemp sprang from modest beginnings, originating in pro football's equivalent of the log cabin.
In 1957, the Detroit Lions, I was 17th, I think, round draft choice. Buddy Parker was the coach, and Bobby Lane and Tobin Rote were the first 2 quarterbacks. So I was on the block early in my career, and Buddy Parker went to Pittsburgh, and a couple weeks later took me with him. So I ended up in Pittsburgh for a year and a half with Earl Morrall, Len Dawson, and myself, and Buddy Parker, and all of the rookie experiences. It was great.
I knew he was different in those days because most guys, you know, when they would read, what would they read? They'd read the sports pages or the comic section or something like that, sports magazine. He was reading political books and things like that with no pictures in it. So I knew at that time he was destined for big things.
But the Steelers' Buddy Parker did not quite agree with that assessment and released the studious but seldom used Kemp after just 1 season.
I went from the Steelers to the Giants. I punned a little bit and hanging on by the skin of my, teeth. So when the American Football League came along, more teams, more players, more jobs, more opportunities. Sid Gilman took me to the Chargers. I didn't start out very quickly, but Gilman stuck with me. Maybe he didn't want to. I never knew what went through his mind, but he did. And we had some good football teams in San Diego. I could throw a football. That's about all I could do at the time. But I think Coach Gilman was able to convert a strong arm into hopefully an accurate one as well.
He had, I tell you, he had an arm. The guy could throw the ball through a building. And the first couple of years, he had 1 speed. That was a problem. I mean, receivers would be coming back and saying, my God, this guy's going to rip my hands apart.
Once Kemp was able to put touch in his tosses, the Chargers became one of the AFL's most successful teams. In each of his first 2 seasons, Kemp guided the team to the Western Division title. And with young and talented players around him, Kemp's future seemed as bright as the San Diego, California sun. But in 1962, a serious hand injury sent Kemp to the sidelines. Due to technicalities with injured waivers procedures, the Chargers' Sid Gilman was stunned to learn he had permanently lost the services of his starting quarterback. Jack Kemp was forced to leave his native California to join his new team, the Buffalo Bills.
He came to us with a bum hand. We stayed with him for about 6 or 7 weeks until he began to heal. But about that time, when Jack became well, the fortunes of the Buffalo Bills began to change.
With their new quarterback, the Bills became winners. But Kemp, more accustomed to the wide-open style of the Chargers, occasionally disagreed with Saban's more conservative strategies.
Jack Kemp, as a player, was at times very stubborn. I remember one game in which I insisted that he throw a particular pattern. Nothing seemed to happen. I said, Jack, do you mind if we discuss this at halftime? He said, well, fine, Coach. I'd be very happy to discuss it with you. I said, Jack, I want you to throw 52. I don't want to say it again. And he looked at me and says, but, and I picked him up. It happened to be an open locker behind him. And I shoved him into the locker. And I says, Jack, do you understand me? He says, yes, sir, Coach. And we threw that pass in the second half. I think he must have rolled up over 100 yards just with that one particular pattern.
Kemp's determination was also his greatest attribute, as the Bills would discover for 3 straight championship seasons. In 1964, Kemp beat his former team, the Chargers, 20-7, giving the Bills their first ever league title. A year later, Buffalo beat San Diego again for their 2nd AFL crown. Kemp became a household name and a respected figure throughout Western New York, quarterbacking the Bills for the remainder of the decade. But by 1969, new challenges awaited.
Now, I had spent 13 years throwing a football. And I'll be honest, whether my arm or elbow had started to give out, I couldn't throw as well as I thought I wanted to. I was president of Football Players Union or Association. I was an activist. I would have been called a clubhouse lawyer if I'd been a baseball player, because I loved organizing people and talking about issues and ideas. So the Republican Party said, hey, Kemp, why don't you run for Congress? And I thought about it, and if I'd lost, I would have come back. I had a no-cut contract. I could have come back and exercised the no-cut clause. In fact, I've had a lot of fun over the years telling people that if they didn't like me to Congress, I'd come back and play quarterback for the Bills, and that's how I got sent to Washington. It was another manifestation of a lesson I had learned early in my life, to be there at the right time and to take advantage of opportunities. And I had the great blessing and opportunity to serve the people of Western New York for 18 years in the United States Congress.
Jack Kemp, a football and an American success story, with more chapters still waiting to be written.